When a black CEO goes undercover in his own store, he's shocked to discover the harsh reality of discrimination, especially when an employee refuses to help him. But what happens when he reveals his true identity? The truth will shake the entire company. James Carter had built his retail empire from the ground up. From a single store in his neighborhood to a nationwide chain, Carter's department stores had become a household name. But despite his success, James never lost sight of where he came from. He believed in hard work, customer service, and, above all, fairness in the workplace. That's why he decided to go undercover, anonymously visiting one of his own stores to ensure his company values were being upheld. Dressed in casual clothes, a faded hoodie and worn-out jeans, James walked into one of his flagship stores. It was located in an upscale neighborhood, and the staff were trained to provide top-tier service. But today he wasn't the CEO, he was just another customer. As he stepped inside, he took in the bright lights, the neatly arranged displays, and the bustling employees attending to various customers. He observed everything, making mental notes of the atmosphere and the way staff interacted with shoppers. With a humble demeanor, James approached the customer service desk, pretending to be a man looking for assistance in buying a gift for his niece. His heart pounded slightly. He had spent years building a business that prided itself on treating every customer with dignity and respect. Today, he would see if that principle held true, without anyone knowing who he was. As James approached the counter, a young woman in a crisp store uniform stood there. Her name tag read, Rachel. She was scrolling through her phone, barely acknowledging his presence. He cleared his throat politely and smiled. "Excuse me, miss. I was wondering if you could help me find a gift for my niece." Rachel barely looked up. "The toy section is in the back. You can find something there," she said curtly. James was taken aback. He had expected at least some enthusiasm, maybe even a question about what his niece might like. Instead, he got an indifferent dismissal. He persisted. "I was hoping for a little guidance. She's 10 years old and really into art. Do you have any recommendations?" Rachel sighed audibly, finally looking up from her phone. Her eyes scanned James from head to toe, her expression shifting from indifference to annoyance. "Look, man, everything is labeled. Just check the aisles." The response was jarring. This was not the level of service he had trained his employees to provide. James decided to push a little further. "I understand, but I'd really appreciate some help. I want to make sure I get the right thing." Rachel rolled her eyes and muttered under her breath, "Some people just don't know how to shop." Then, with an exaggerated sigh, she turned to another employee. "Hey, Mark, this guy is asking a million questions. Can you deal with him?" Mark, a young man who seemed much more eager to help, walked over with a smile. But before he could assist, Rachel whispered something to him, and he hesitated. James watched as Mark's expression shifted from friendly to reluctant. Whatever Rachel had said, it had changed the way Mark was going to treat him. James took a deep breath. This was worse than he had anticipated. Employees were not only being dismissive, but also influencing others to do the same. He decided to walk away for now and observe further, before taking any action. James wandered through the aisles, watching how other customers were treated. A well-dressed white man approached Rachel moments after he had left the counter. Her demeanor changed instantly. She smiled warmly, asked him what he needed, and even walked with him to help him find the right product. The contrast was stark, and James felt a tight knot form in his stomach. Was this about his appearance? Was this about race? He needed more evidence before jumping to conclusions. So he continued to browse, watching interactions closely. Other employees seemed friendly enough, but Rachel, the one who had dismissed him, was treating different customers with noticeably varying levels of respect. It was clear. James, dressed as an average black man, was not given the same courtesy as a wealthier-looking white customer. His blood boiled. He had worked too hard to build a company that valued integrity and equality, only to have an employee undermine those principles. He knew what he had to do next, reveal himself and confront the situation head-on. James returned to the customer service desk, this time standing tall and exuding the authority he naturally carried in his business meetings. "Rachel," he said firmly. She looked up with the same indifferent expression. "Yeah?" "I'd like to speak with the store manager." Rachel smirked. "About what?" "About the way customers are treated in this store." Rachel shrugged and called for the manager, a middle-aged man named Peter. As soon as Peter arrived, James took off his hood, straightened his posture, and in a calm but commanding voice said, "Peter, I am James Carter, the owner of Carter's department stores, and I have some serious concerns about what I just witnessed." Rachel's face drained of colour. Mark looked stunned. Peter, who had only just processed what was happening, stumbled over his words. Mr. Carter, I had no idea you were coming. What seems to be the issue?" James turned to Rachel. "Would you like to explain, or should I?" She stammered. I didn't know that I was the CEO. That shouldn't matter. What should matter is how you treat every customer, regardless of their race, their clothing, or their background." His voice was firm, but controlled. "Yet I watched you dismiss me while giving another customer your full attention. Why?" Rachel had no answer. Her silence spoke volumes. Part 5. Justice and Lessons. Learned. Peter immediately apologized on behalf of the store and assured James that this was not how they trained their employees. But James wasn't satisfied with empty words. "This is bigger than one employee's bad attitude," he said. "This is about a culture that allows this to happen." Rachel was terminated on the spot, but James made it clear that firing one person wasn't the solution. He implemented new policies, requiring all employees to undergo intensive customer service and diversity training. He also introduced an undercover shopping program where secret shoppers would evaluate employees to ensure fair treatment of all customers. The story went viral. When news outlets picked up the incident, James didn't shy away. He used the moment to educate people on unconscious bias, racial profiling, and the importance of respect in business. Months later, James returned to the same store, this time openly. The atmosphere had changed. Employees greeted every customer with the same warmth and attentiveness. The lesson had been learned, and James knew he had taken one more step toward ensuring fairness in his company. As he walked out, he smiled. This was what he had built his business for, to create something that treated everyone with dignity, no matter who they were.